A Little Game of War. Written by MacSpooky. Narrated by Crafty Arts. Arundel threw himself onto a couch and lay sprawled there. I need a drink. What a dreary party.
It wasn't a party, Arundel.
He levitated a decanter and a glass, then apparently thought better of it, and discarded the glass and began to drink directly from the decanter. Funeral, party, what's the difference? I was celebrating. In our turbulent on-again, off-again relationship, I had never been so disgusted by him.
She was your sister.
Half-sister, corrected Arundel. He never let an opportunity to point this out pass. Do get the stick out of your butt, Leanna, and party with me. I never liked the little brat, so why pretend to care now? Goldenrod was an anchor, and I'm celebrating being rid of her. Father won't be wasting all the money he should have been putting in my trust fund and prolonging her miserable little life.
She was getting better.
It was a stupid thing to say, but it was all I could think of.
Well,
Something must have triggered a relapse. Lucky me. I didn't respond. If I tried to defend Goldenrod, it would just make Arundel rant about her more, and I didn't have the heart to hear it. Turning my back to him, I wiped tears from my eyes. In front of me, on the mantelpiece, was one of Goldenrod's toys, a little pony in a gold guard's uniform. It shouldn't have been there. Goldenrod was always diligent about her toys being put back where they belonged. I took the little toy soldier down and held it gently. Hey, you want to do it on her bed? Asked Arundel. Dad and his gold digger will be playing morning parents all evening. We'll have the house to ourselves. Goldenrod's bed is really comfy. I didn't want to know why Arundel knew that. I couldn't remember why I left the funeral with him. I was about to tell him to go to hell and go back to the funeral home when Arundel jumped up. I know. Let's play with our toys. I want to take advantage of all those wonderful military play sets of Goldenrod's. Dad stopped buying them for me when I was a kid. He said I didn't take care of them. But he got that sickly little brat everything that came on the market. Seriously, what's the fun in having toys if you can't break them? Let's see how many of her things we can break tonight. Arundel snatched the toy from my hoof. He bounded up the stairs to Goldenrod's bedroom, the decanter still bobbing along next to his head. No! I sprinted after him. Those toy soldiers were precious to her. Come on, Leanna. You love to play with her. Play with me. I'd come to work here after being expelled from the Equestrian Military Academy for cheating. I was caught letting a friend copy my test answers. A trust fund baby like Arundel could, and did, get kicked out of every school he attended, and bounced back as if nothing had happened. But I couldn't. The best work I could find was a nanny to a very sick little filly. Before my disgrace, I'd been an honor student. The Department of Tactics and Strategy had actually made me a tutor. If I had managed to graduate, I was sure I would have gone on to become an instructor. Having students was what I missed the most about school. I had found an apt pupil again in little Goldenrod. We played mock combat every day. usually all day. I taught Goldenrod everything I knew, and when she learned all that, we got books from the library and taught ourselves more. On her bed days, I had to move all her units for her, but that hampered her not at all. She could command from her bed better than most generals could in the field. Goldenrod also learned a great deal about diplomacy. I liked to fight to a draw, then sue for peace. I always found her terms firm but fair. Now I remembered why I came home with Arendelle. It was to keep him from doing something awful, like this.
I mean it, Arendelle. Don't touch her toys.
You're no fun, Liana. Arendelle was running up the stairs. Last one to the snot's bedroom has to defend the castle. I call dibs on the ballistas. I chased him up the stairs and almost collided with him when Arendelle stopped, dead at the top. Is this some kind of joke? He demanded. I looked around his shoulder to where he pointed. There, at the top of the staircase, was a formation of tiny earth pony destroyers.
I don't understand. These toys are never left out. And even if they were, they aren't allowed near the stairs. Some pony might trip on them.
Well, they didn't walk there on their own. What the hell? I followed his gaze to the base of the stairway. Another troop of toy ponies had taken up position blocking that exit. Some pony is trying to make a fool of me. I won't stand for it.
The house is empty, except for us, Arendelle.
A chill ran along my spine. Well, this is just ridiculous. Arendelle began to step off the stairs. No sooner had his hoof touched the floor than the little pony soldiers braced their lances against their saddles. They advanced on Arendelle in a neatly dressed line. He retreated down the stairs to stand next to me. I didn't know they could do that.
They can't,
I said. Well, however it's done, I'm not playing this game. Arendelle took a deep swig from the decanter. They can't climb stairs, and I am content to wait. I'm sure the prankster responsible will grow bored before I run out of wine.
Actually, they could use the ropes and ladders from the siege engine set. Or they could send one of the Pegasi units.
I had a much longer list of ways we could be attacked on the stairs, but that was as far as I got. Arendelle shrieked with pain. The toy guard pony he held had drawn its sword and stabbed him through the soft part of his hoof. This damn thing hurt me! Arendelle shook the toy loose, and I heard a clatter when it fell out of sight. It hurt me. How did it hurt me? I could think of no sane answer to the question. There was a twang that was so soft I wasn't certain I had really heard anything. Then Arendelle screamed again. My face! A dozen little shafts peppered his cheeks. Each arrow was half the size of a toothpick.
Oh, hush. I'll find some tweezers and remove them. They won't even leave a mark.
I decided not to mention that Goldenrod's little army had over 300 archers. Liana, we have to get away from here. Do something! That made two things Arendelle was right about. We did have to get away, and it was up to me to handle it.
Fine. Follow me and stay close. And give me that.
I snatched the wine decanter out of the air. I took a deep breath and ran up the stairs. I swear, the little toy soldiers appeared to brace themselves to meet my charge. When I hit the top step, I rolled the heavy crystal glass right at them. This scattered their ranks enough for me to run through them. Arundel was just behind me. I heard him whimper, probably as the archers took aim at his departing flanks. My planned escape route took me to the right. Arundel did not follow. He continued down the hallway.
Arundel, stop!
Don't be stupid, he called. The back stairs are this way. He was going to run right between two open doors, doors that would normally kept closed. Everything about this looked familiar. I'd taught Goldenrod this trick.
It's an ambush! Arundel, you're running into a trap!
He stopped and glared at me over his shoulder. Oh, what? They're toys, Liana. They don't know how to set traps. Arundel had stopped right between the open rooms. I bit down on his tail and yanked hard. He squealed with pain and outrage, but I didn't care. I was just in time. 2 volleys of rocks sailed into the hall. If Arundel had still been there, right at the center of the crossfire, he would have been crippled. Catapults? Gasped Arundel. Goldenrod had catapults? That's not fair! I begged Dad to buy me catapults!
Just shut up and follow me, Arundel.
I led him through a concealed door to the servants' stairs. All the while, Arundel continued to rant about how Goldenrod had nicer toys than he did. Instead of telling him to shut up, I just shut him out. I had plenty of practice at that. When I first came to work at the household, I was depressed and vulnerable. Qualities Arundel found irresistible in a mare. That the handsome socialite stallion about town was paying attention to little old me was intoxicating. It made me weak in the knees. This was enough for me to delude myself into thinking I was in love with him. Though, that didn't last long. I did keep coming back to him, though this was mostly inspired by fear. I was terrified that if I spurned him, Arundel would have me fired. I couldn't bear the thought of being separated from Goldenrod. The stairs led down to a service way that connected the kitchen and the ballroom. I was not about to face an enemy in our kitchen. I didn't want to think about them getting into the butcher's knives, or what they could do with the burners on the stove. That left the ballroom. I opened the door to peek out. The cavalry was waiting for us. I have to say I was impressed with their tactics. They were arrayed in several lines, spaced irregularly so that we couldn't simply gallop or leap over them without losing rhythm. They could take advantage of all the space the ballroom gave them to maneuver. But they were close enough to reinforce each other. To me, it looked like one of Goldenrod's plans.
Do we just make a run for it?
Whispered Arundel.
If just one lancer gets lucky, that might be enough to bring just one of us down. Then it's all over.
He was probably right. Arundel was already favoring one hoof from his sword wound. Besides their lances, some of the units had chariots with wheel blades, which could chop off a hoof. Luckily, the cleaning staff had left me a weapon I thought might confound my little enemies.
We run for the door, but you stay with me. I will make a hole for us. On 3, I will throw open the door, and we hit them as fast as we can.
He nodded. I counted, and then we charged. I had a push broom. I held it in my teeth, using it like a snowplow. I literally swept them out of the way. It occurred to me that when Goldenrod and I played, this tactic would have been considered cheating. But the rules had changed. We had almost made it to the door when a cloud of Pegasi rose from their hiding place behind the piano. They were behind us, but gaining swiftly.
Keep running, and don't quit until you reach the front door,
I told Arundel. He didn't argue at all about leaving me. I went to the cloakroom, where I thought I'd find what I needed to cover him. Sure enough, there was an umbrella. Some pony always leaves an umbrella behind. I popped it open just as the first Pegasi reached me. They bounced off the fabric and fell. Quickly opening and closing the umbrella produced enough wind to scatter the rest. I ran to catch up with Arundel, slamming the doors behind me. He hadn't made it to the door. He was cowering behind a cabinet. Guarding the exit, floating just above the doorframe, were 3 toy airships. Airships! That's so unfair! I never had airships! 4 ballistas were mounted on each of them, and Arundel sported a bloody shoulder wound that told me at least one had been fired already. I took cover behind a bookcase. There was a twang, and a bolt struck the shelf hard enough to send splinters into my mane. A well-aimed shot would kill. Goldenrod, why are you doing this to me? Cried Arundel. Why can't you move on to your reward or your punishment or whatever and leave me alone? A round of ballista bolts answered him, shattering several knickknacks on the cabinet.
Goldenrod is dead,
I shouted. Who else could be doing this? Arundel was raving. The wicked little monster has come back to haunt me. Why is she doing this? That was a very good question.
Can you hear that?
It was a strange whirring noise that I didn't recognize. I figured it out almost too late.
Arundel, duck!
What? Arrgh! A little pink toy dove at him and cut a deep slice into his ear before he swatted it out of the air. It crashed to the floor and broke. A helicopter? I didn't even know they made helicopters.
They came out last week. Goldenrod wasn't supposed to get it until her birthday next month.
Well, the little sneak got it out of its box anyway. Damn it, Liana, she's mutilating me. She's cutting me to pieces. Help me, you have to save me.
Well, first we have to find another way out. I think... Oh, bloody hell.
I'd turned to see which way the safest retreat was. All I could see were toy soldiers everywhere. Whatever way we ran, we would have to fight our way through, and it was about to get worse. A team of engineers appeared to be working on getting the ballroom doors back open. Some little soldier ponies had gotten into a china cabinet and were breaking the glass. No doubt Pegasi would be sent to drop the shards on us. Far down the hall, I saw groups of 4 or 8 toy soldiers dragging the cutlery out of the kitchen. They were mounting the knives on little wagons. The only spot unguarded was the stairway.
Don't panic, Arundel. We can make a plan. We need something to pop the airships with.
He screamed as the archers began to take pot shots at him. I doubted any of them hit him, but it was all Arundel could take. He bolted like a flushed rabbit and ran up the stairs to the 2nd floor. It was a trap. There was no way down from there. We were obviously being herded, but Arendelle had nowhere else to run. The nanny and me took over, and I followed him. In many ways, Arendelle needed a keeper more than Goldenrod had. I couldn't just leave him. When I caught Arendelle at the top of the stairs, I began to rethink that choice. All the catapults had been moved into the hall. It looked like Goldenrod's complete set of 32. They were aimed right at us, loaded with rocks and ready to fire. Little tin ponies were pouring something oily over the rocks. Others stood by with tiny torches. We dove for cover through the nearest open door, but if there was any sense of relief at being out of the line of fire, it was evaporated as soon as we realized where we were. It was Goldenrod's bedroom. We were surrounded by toys, and each of them turned to stare at us. The door slammed shut and locked itself. Arendelle wet himself. I dragged him into the wardrobe and shut us in. With a ribbon, I tore off one of Goldenrod's dresses. I tied the door closed. This would not hold them out for long, but it seemed to reassure Arendelle. We only need to hold on until Dad gets home, he said. We'll be safe here, won't we, Liana? He was hoping for soothing words of encouragement. I was not in the mood.
No, Arendelle, we're not safe,
I snapped.
Goldenrod has a squad of minotaurs with axes that can hack the door apart. Or she could use the battering ram from the siege engine set. Or she could bring some of the catapults in here and smash us with flaming rocks. Or she could keep it simple and set the wardrobe on fire.
Shut up! Just shut up! Arendelle curled up on the floor and began to cry. Why is she doing this to me?
I don't know.
Something slid a sheet of Goldenrod's stationery, pink with bunnies, kittens, and puppies all around the border, under the door. On it was scrawled one word: surrender. I found a purple marker, wrote terms, and slid the paper back. It came back with unconditional added to surrender. I wrote mercy and slipped it back. I got the paper back with unconditional circled 5 times, underscored 3 times, and ringed with little stars. Oh, just tell her nuts and quit playing along with her, Liana, shouted Arendelle. I am hurt. I'm bleeding. I'm tired. I can't breathe in here and I need a drink. You need to get me out of here.
None of this makes any sense,
I murmured. Oh, good. You've been paying attention.
That's not what I meant.
It really didn't make sense. I could recognize Goldenrod's brilliance, but nothing else about any of this reminded me of her. She wasn't cruel, and she wouldn't toy with any pony the way we had been played with. Chasing us around the house, slowly escalating her forces, picking away at Arendelle. None of this was like Goldenrod. She liked to deploy overwhelming force to end things swiftly. She thought that was as close to merciful as going to war would allow. And she had no motive for any of this. I knew that Arendelle had broken her heart. She once confided in me that she had always wanted a big brother. What she got instead was Arendelle, who treated Goldenrod like he was allergic to her. I could not imagine how that must have hurt. But that did not justify this murderous rage. Why is she haunting me? Sobbed Arendelle.
Why don't you tell me? Why is Goldenrod haunting you?
What? What are you talking about?
Goldenrod was getting better. She was stronger every day.
Yes, well, like I said, she must have had a relapse.
Did you trick her that relapse? Perhaps with a pillow over her face?
It wasn't a guess. I was just lashing out blindly. The guilty look on his face told me I'd accidentally stumbled upon the truth. The shock almost stopped my heart.
She was a filly, Arundel. She was your sister.
Half sister, and I didn't do anything. She just died, all right.
You are an incompetent liar, Arundel. It's why you owe so much from playing poker.
Stop it, Liana. You can't turn me in now. You have to save me.
Fine.
I started to tie a lace handkerchief to a coat hanger. What are you doing?
Making a flag of truce. I'm going to go out and negotiate with Goldenrod.
Arundel blanched. You can't. It wouldn't work. She just wants me dead.
It will buy us some time. Goldenrod always loved this part. I can make it fun for her and draw it out until we're rescued.
Arundel was now more terrified than I'd seen him all night. She won't listen. She wants revenge. She'll kill you, and I'll be all alone.
She will listen, and she won't kill me. Goldenrod knows I care about her.
Are you sure? No, I wasn't. Not at all.
Of course I'm sure. You have to trust me, Arundel. There's nobody else here to help you.
Without waiting for a response, I bit through the ribbon, securing the doors and opening them enough to stick my improvised white flag through.
Goldenrod, I'm coming out.
I stepped halfway out.
Goldenrod, where are you? Arundel, come look! All of the toys are gone. We've made it!
He was so excited, he shoved me out of the way to see. What? Liana, we're still surrounded. No! I pushed him as hard as I could and closed the door. I bent my coat hanger around the lock and catch to keep them closed. Liana, let me in! You can't do this to me! He pounded his hooves against the wardrobe so hard I was afraid he'd break in. But that didn't go on for very long. He called my name a few times, but after that all I heard was screams. I couldn't press my hooves against my ears firmly enough to keep out the screams. I heard hoofbeats, as Arundel must have made a run for it, and I heard the bedroom door open. After that, it became very quiet. I don't know how long I waited in there, listening to myself sobbing. Not as long as I wanted, and probably not as long as I needed. I had earned the right to have a good cry, but I didn't have the luxury of sitting there all night. Eventually, I pulled myself together enough to leave the wardrobe.
Goldenrod, you've won the game. Will you please accept my unconditional surrender?
After a moment, all the toys surrounding me lowered their weapons.
Thank you, sweetheart.
I was so relieved I almost started bawling again. I was going to live. I still had a lot to deal with, but I could deal with it. I would be alive to deal with it. The authorities would demand an explanation about what happened to Arundel, and the only explanation I had was quite insane. I had no idea how I would prove I wasn't mad, let alone how long it would take. But that was all right. I would get a long rest and some compassionate counseling, and I looked forward to that. I had read that a ghost moves on if the business they left unfinished in life is completed. If that was really how things worked, then Goldenrod would be leaving soon. A plush dragon rose into the air and floated over to me. I took the toy I was offered and set it down in front of the gates of Goldenrod's castle.
One last game before you go? I'd love to.
I began gathering up toys to represent my forces. I deployed them while Goldenrod moved her little soldiers into place. I needed to do one last thing before we could play. Something was lying very still in the hall just outside the bedroom, and I didn't want to look at it. So I closed the bedroom door, then went back to our game.